Don't shut it off. I'm warning you.
Welcome to Strange Glow Videos. Well, that's what I heard.
Aren't you going to introduce me to your team?
Hosted by Alec, Justin, and Nick.
Well, that's what I heard.
Hey, welcome back to Strange Glow Video. My name is Justin. With me is my esteemed colleague and expert co-host, Alec, and we've got a special guest joining us tonight, Jerry. You may know Jerry. He traveled with us to the Afterlife premiere and went to Fan Fest with us. All around excellent dude, super Ghostbusters fan. So welcome to the show, Jerry. How are you doing?
Doing well, guys. Yeah, happy Monday. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Alec, how are you tonight?
As Lorenzo Music once said in a voice booth somewhere, I hate Mondays.
I mean,
100%.
Since
my day started out slow, it's kind of easing into the week, and then I got piled on. Fucking sucked. I hate Mondays.
I actually don't hate Mondays because I'm off Mondays, so it's one of those things.
I work Sundays, so like by the time most people are having a case on the Mondays, I'm like, I'm damn near halfway through my work week. Woohoo!
That's true.
I mean, yeah, by the time we're recording this, like by the time we record, I'm already halfway through my work week. So only 2 days left.
When did I say Thursdays or like your Fridays? Or what is
I just work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So, you know, I got that little schedule there.
Nice.
I hope you're offended by my Teen Wolf shirt.
What are you looking at, Dick? Now?
Teen Wolf shirt. And then
in years, man. I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Oh, you're missing out. Classic Michael J. Fox.
I know. No, I know. I remember. Well, I don't remember all of it. I got to go back and watch it, but yeah, it was a good movie.
I'll be doing a video on the ending of that movie at some point because I do a video series called Nostalgia Sleuth where I look into old myths and urban legends from the 80s and 90s that we remember.
I remember you did one on 3 Minute Little Baby, right? The death, the ghost in that movie, which was just a cutout. Yeah, I saw that video.
So at the end of Teen Wolf, supposedly somebody exposes their genitals and or pulls up their pants. So I'll have to go into detail about that, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I hear that.
So, did you get Extreme Ghostbusters on Blu-ray or on DVD, Jerry?
I did not. Sorry, guys. I know I don't mind the series, but I just was never into it when I was a kid. I don't know. I think when they went too far away from the original formula and it's just Egon, and I don't know, I just couldn't really buy into it. I didn't like the new equipment. I don't know. So I just never really watched it. I tried and I just didn't get into it. So I don't really have a nostalgia or reason to buy it.
Okay. Well,
I know it's kind of blasphemous to some people, but
I think after Frozen Empire, you need to do a revisit. So I think that's something we should do. At least we'll show you a couple episodes. We'll show you that there's 4 critical episodes in that series. The first 2.
Oh, come on. Shut the fuck up with that. There's a lot more critical episodes than that. He's just saying that because like the first one sets up the series and it's awesome. And then he's going to say the other one where the real Ghostbusters in it. Those aren't even the best episodes. Those are great episodes.
There was one I remember in the old.
But if I show you those, you might actually want to watch the rest of the series. That's what I'm getting at. They're like a gateway drug. 40 some odd episodes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll give it a go again. I mean, I'll try it. I haven't looked at it, since I was a kid and never watched them. I think I saw a video about one of the episodes not too long ago, but I don't know. And I know I've been playing Spirits Unleashed.
Oh yeah.
Switch, and I know they have the cosmetic shell for the Extreme Ghostbusters as well. I just haven't used them.
Well, they've got the Frozen Empire DLC coming out, and actually it announced a full year's worth of extra content for that game. So I'm glad they're supporting it further. I didn't know, really what to expect because they've already done a fair amount of DLC and extra stuff for it. So
they did, and I was so happy. So I had it on PlayStation 4 at the beginning, but then when they came out with the Switch, it's just easier for me to use a Nintendo. So, and I was pissed. I was gonna have to regrind and get all those like the real Ghostbuster shells and everything unlocked, but it's like a $6 buy-in just to unlock everything. So I'm hoping this is kind of the same way, like because I don't have the time to grind and unlock all that stuff. I just want to have it now.
I think
so I don't know if there's a way to pay and get it, or if it'll be.
I think if you already
bought there will be.
Well, I think if you already bought that DLC, it'll be the same way because I think that's supposed to include future unlocks. Because I bought it as well for the PS5 just because
It was only like $6 for the DLC. It's like super cheap.
Yeah, I don't get to play an insane amount, so for me to go through and like try to unlock that stuff, I'm like, I'd rather
Exactly.
I'll pay a few bucks to unlock that. I don't care. And plus, it supports the game, so I'm good. I'm good giving them some extra money when they're doing support for this game for a while.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind paying for DLC like that. I'll pay all day, and then if it's not crazy, of course. But yeah, I don't have the time, and then I'm working on some other games anyway. And then by the time I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I don't have the energy to go catch 30 ghosts right now to unlock a X or whatever it is.
Yeah. So we've all seen. How many times have you seen Frozen Empire now?
Seen it twice.
Seen it twice. Okay, so we're all at 2. So I think that's a pretty good number, right? The first time it's good. It's hard to enjoy all the way through just because you're trying to anticipate what's going to happen next. The second time you have that, you know what's going to happen, so it's a lot more relaxing to watch. You know, it's like less stressful. It's easier to just take it in.
And I found myself like some scenes were maybe a little too rushed or so. I was like, I don't, because a lot of times I caught myself trying to find Easter eggs when I should have maybe been more paying attention to what was going, like the scene or something. I was just looking in the background. And I think I kind of missed a couple what I thought were plot holes originally when I first saw it. I was like, wait, how did that doesn't make sense why she did that. But then going back and seeing it again, it kind of clicked a little bit better for me in certain scenes. So I enjoyed it better the second time. And I enjoyed it the first time a lot, but I really liked it the second time a lot more.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about before we kind of get into overall reactions, because, you know, Alec and I did our initial kind of thorough review breakdown, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on things overall. But like the backlash to this movie's been kind of crazy. Like this is the lowest rated movie by critics in the series out of including all 5, right? So it's crazy to see this one. I think for me personally, my thoughts are that a lot of people that are reviewing this weren't necessarily fans of the real Ghostbusters or Extreme Ghostbusters and didn't get the cartoon lore kind of blending into the world. So that didn't make sense to them. So they're just like, oh, there's too much. And I'm like, there is a lot.
I felt like there's like Janine, you know, with the hand proton pack. I forgot what they called it, but you know, I first saw that in the comics.
Yeah, IDW did that, and then they kind of translated that later to the
IDWs, and I was like, oh, at least that's where I first saw it, and I don't think it was in RGB.
No, not that I recall anyway.
Yeah.
So what was your thought? I mean, have you seen all the backlash, and like, how did you respond to that? Or what are your opinions on that?
For me, I mean, I heard about the backlash, kind of looked into it. I went to like RottenTomatoes.com and like, I was like, Jesus, why is this such a low score? And then I gave my score, but obviously the audience score was like in the 80s, right? 83, 85.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of it's, you know, us ghost heads and stuff that love the franchise, but I don't know why. I don't know if they have some kind of agenda or there's competing films that they're trying to bring down Ghostbusters and prop up another film for different reasons. I don't know. I was just very surprised. I mean, because obviously it's not meant to win an Oscar, you know, like the biggest, most mature plot ever. I mean, it's a Ghostbuster film. You just kind of go in there, you know, knowing what to expect. But I thought it was really good. There's a lot more comedy this time around. I thought it was funny. Had a few jump scares. My 9-year-old daughter got scared a couple times in a good way, and she loved it. So I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, that's awesome. Alec, what are your thoughts kind of like on the backlash? Have you just been ignoring it? Do you think they're idiots, or are you how do you feel about it?
I think it's hilarious. I mean, like, critics are interesting, and it's interesting to see what critics have to say. We agree with some critics, we disagree with some critics. That's always how it's going to be. That's always how it's been. So I think it's dumb when people try to like, they're like, they feel personally attacked by the critics not liking this movie. It's like these critics are mostly the ones who are rating it this way are emotionally detached from Ghostbusters. They don't give a fuck about Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. So it's I mean, I don't know what the last couple Star Wars movies gotten Rotten Tomatoes and anything, but like, you know, some of these returning franchises and stuff like the Jurassic World movies, what are those getting on Rotten Tomatoes? I don't know. I don't really look into it. I don't care that much. We look into this because we're mostly worried about box office because we want more Ghostbusters.
Well, I was going to say,
but
yeah,
My concern
The thing
is like,
about these critics is,
but
I really don't care that much. The first Ghostbusters has a great score. This Ghostbusters Answer the Call has a second highest score.
yeah, and that wasn't out of all of the movies, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of different ways, it was the least successful from a franchise or from a fan perspective, and it made the least amount of money. That's another thing. Like,
I think people, yeah, the money is again only concerned. The money has nothing to do with, I think, quality of movie. It only has to do with how well they marketed it and how well, yeah, people went to see it. I mean, it doesn't indicate quality, obviously, but the whole Rotten Tomatoes, people are dumb. They like get mad at Rotten Tomatoes, and it's like Rotten Tomatoes is just an aggregate score where they're adding and averaging out the score of how people have rated it percentage wise,
right?
Critics wise, and then you get both percentages. So it's like, I don't know. I just don't get the hate towards the critics and stuff. It's like, whatever, just move along. We want it to be financially successful. We don't care what the critics say.
I agree. I don't care what the critics say. I can give two shits. They get paid to watch. Like, I look at what other people have said, like people I know that maybe you guys I could trust to tell me if X movie is good, since we have a lot of same interest. I don't give a shit about the critics. But financially, like you said, like as long as it does well, because that means more Ghostbusters in the future, right? So
yeah,
it's got to go over 100 million for this film to greenlight another one.
Potentially. So I mean, I think all in, I was hearing ballpark of around 61 million internationally, including international sales with U.S. sales for opening weekend. I don't know what the marketing budget was on this, but I know they only really went up 25 million from the last movie, right? Afterlife was a budget of 75 million. This came in at 100 million, but you look at inflation, you look at the cost of materials and things post-COVID to shoot. This
Give it a couple more weeks internationally, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it will. I think that's the only reason the critic stuff matters at all, though, is just because if you have this movie being panned, and it's not necessarily going to stop anybody that's a fan of like fun movies or anything like that, but it might stop a few people from going to it because they say, oh, well, the ratings are low. But, I would say on average, I never really give a shit what critics say about movies. I don't usually look at that stuff.
Right.
And I'm only looking at this just because I kind of want to see what other people's opinions are as a sequel to, my favorite franchise. So
I watch a lot of YouTubers that review movies mostly, as opposed to professional critics, and a lot of them didn't like it either, to be honest. Most of what I'm seeing out there from the big YouTube movie reviewers so far, unless they're hardcore Ghostbusters nerds, which I've seen a few, but
is there a main theme as to why they're not liking it?
They just don't. It's like a lot of them didn't even like Afterlife. They thought some of the same things about. I thought this one was better than Afterlife personally. That's me, but I don't know how they're feeling. I didn't watch a lot of the reviews. I just they're clickbaity thumbnails, and then I like skim a little bit, and then I don't watch the whole thing. I watch it for other things. I usually like to watch positive reviews. I don't watch a lot of negative reviews if it's obvious,
Right.
So,
yeah, I'd say that's a fair assessment. So for me, like that wasn't a big deal. I'm just hoping that wasn't deterring the box office, but it had a strong performance opening weekend. Internationally, it did pretty well too, because it's not in all markets yet, right? There's some of the international markets that don't release till the 29th. It's interesting because Godzilla times Kong or whatever comes out this Friday, and everyone's like, is that going to mess it up going into Easter weekend? And I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, I think that's they're similar in the fact that they're like popcorn movies, right? They're like fun movies just to go see at the theater. So
yeah, I don't think you're going to get a lot more families going to Ghostbusters, kids.
I was about to say, I feel like the Ghostbusters is the family movie out of those two. You'll definitely have some Godzilla people, but and Godzilla's rated appropriately for a family to be able to go to it as well. But it's less like, I feel like for sure families are more likely to go see Ghostbusters. So
it's more of a pop cultural icon versus Godzilla, especially with family kids. Like my nephew, I mean, granted, I got him into Ghostbusters, but he just has this like surge again. He's like all Ghostbusters all the time, wearing his flight suit to school, like everything. So I don't see like his doing that with Godzilla. Is my point.
Well, with Godzilla, I wonder how this is going to do because Godzilla -1 was fucking perfect. Like for a perfect film, it's and granted, obviously this is legendary. This is the American version take on this. I just don't know what audience appetite's going to be for the silliness of this immediately following Godzilla -1 that was critically acclaimed and probably, arguably, I would say the second best Godzilla movie besides the original. In my
Okay,
opinion.
settle down now. I was gonna say, I think Godzilla's iconic, and it's gonna do well enough no matter what. Because if people are just like, "Oh, I want to go to the movies," they'll go see a Godzilla movie. I feel like the Ghostbusters is the same way as that, though. Like if you're just like, "Oh, I want to go see a movie," they're not like necessarily waiting for these movies to drop. I think that's both of these have a lot of that audience. People who are like, "Oh yeah, let's go to the movies this week," and then they look and they're like, "Oh, we could go. I'll go see Ghostbusters or Godzilla." Yeah. Both of those have that appeal, and this Godzilla is continuing a franchise, and it really depends on how critical you are about these movies, because a lot of Godzilla fans love everything about Godzilla, including the bad. So the hardcore people aren't going to be stopped by any of that.
True.
And if anything, the weirder and the wackier, the more asses you'll get in seats in America for the popcorn people who just want monsters fighting and no dialogue. There will be plenty of dialogue in it, and they'll complain, but that's what they think they'll be walking into, as usual, for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not super worried about it. Just an interesting juxtaposition with where we're going at with things. Now, I think this movie is going to do well long term, right? We're coming up on the 40th anniversary, so I'd imagine that this could easily pop back into theaters in June, right? Do its theater run and come back in with maybe a double feature or something like that. Local theater chains and things like that. The other thing I think that's kind of
I wouldn't be surprised if they put all of the Ghostbusters movies back in theaters, because they're doing that with the Spider-Man movies right now.
Yeah, it's also Columbia Pictures' 100th anniversary, so they've got a lot to celebrate, right? So it's Ghostbusters 40th, Columbia's 100th. You've got a movie coming out in the anniversary year. Like it's a pretty big year for Ghostbusters, not just for this movie, but just all around.
I don't think I've ever, since I was a kid, of course, seen Ghostbusters 2 in the theaters, because they always re-release the original. And then like during Halloween time and whatever, which I've definitely done a number of times. But yeah, I wish I would do number 2. I think I was talking with you guys or some one time. It's like, let's rent a theater out, like a B&B local here, and you can play whatever you want. We'll just play our own private screen of Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that's super
that would be awesome.
Well, maybe not too bad. I think it'd be like $400 or $500, but still, we pull some money together.
Yeah, and I think the other piece is that you get a ton of Ghostbusters cosplayers like hitting up the movie theaters for the movie releases, right? I know the local group was out and about, and I've seen Ghostbusters groups that were friends with all over the country out there doing promotions and stuff for the theater. So, that helps get people in there. Somebody that doesn't know what they're going to see goes to the theater to kind of check things out. Might see all these fanatics out there and be like, oh, you know what? That seems like fun. So let's check that out.
Yeah, I think it's going to do well overall. So it's just over a week. So I'm excited. And I don't know. I think, and it's such a toyetic type franchise. I mean, all the stuff that comes with it, the collectors, the actual kids' toys, like it's such a money-making machine that, I mean, unless it completely flops, which it's not going to, I don't see how they don't at least consider doing another sequel in another couple of years or something.
No, and I think based on what we're hearing, right, Gil said that the Netflix series is pretty well into development. He's seen
that. Yeah, you're right.
He's seen story. No, they're in the storyboarding process, so they're kind of really working on key artwork and doing active development. So that should be pretty awesome. And then they've already got pre-orders up for the home release of Frozen Empire. Obviously haven't listed any of the special features yet, but I think that's going to be.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut. I was just going to say, are you going to buy that or wait until they do another collector's box with all the movies like they did the Ghost Trap last year or something with Afterlife?
So
it's like we've already owned multiple copies of every movie right now. It's like, do I buy another collector set because it's something badass that I need to have, or do I just just get the Blu-ray?
Well, I don't have that last collector set, so.
Oh no.
I'd get the new one.
Yeah, so it kind of
Oh,
depends on what's on it. For me,
yeah.
right now, I've got I've got a steelbook pre-ordered that basically has the 4K, the Blu-ray, and the digital, and so I'm good with that for now, like just as a standalone. And basically, Gil has said recently that he was excited for everyone to see all the cutscenes. You know, he's not going to do like an extended version or anything like that, but you can kind of see all the fun stuff that they had to cut out of the movie, which I think tripped a few people out because there's a fair amount of stuff in the trailers that gets cut, but that
Right.
always
I was about to
happens.
say
That
because
always happens though. So people are
right,
freaking out, and I'm like, it happens to every movie.
right. Yeah, I was surprised because I told you I didn't watch any trailers before the movie came out. I didn't want any spoilers because I feel like they put too much in the damn trailers. And
Mhm.
but then I went back and watched the trailers. You know, when I got home from the theater, I went back and all my saved YouTube videos I saved, and I was surprised. Yeah, there was a number of scenes that just didn't make it into the film. But like you said, I mean that happens. But
So
you know,
for
they're
someone that
throwing
did
people
that, I think you're the only person I know that didn't see a single trailer on this.
off. I saw the
So
teaser. I will say that was
okay.
obviously the. So if you want to count that, fine. But I didn't see anything after that or the
Pretty sure you
interviews.
came and talked about it with us on here.
Yeah. So I think you're the only
You were-
person I know that didn't watch
Yeah,
the actual trailers leading up into this or the TV spots or anything.
yeah,
So
I didn't see that.
how did that feel for you to see those after seeing the movie in the theater? Like, did you feel like you were pretty happy about that, or was it worth it waiting?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely worth it. I tried that with Afterlife, but I was too anxious on like because it fucking been what 2 years or something since '89, and so I was like, so I ended up like watching one of the trailers or two or something. But for this one, I was like, I'm not gonna watch a single one after the teaser, and then and I liked it. I was pleasantly surprised on like the tall, dark, and horny line from Venkman. I believe that's right in one of the trailers. That made me laugh, when I saw that or heard that for the first time. The library ghost. I thought that was such a cool, like, little, not Easter egg. I mean, it's right in front of you per se, but a nice little nod. Since they're in the library from Ray to see her, and they put that in the fucking trailer, and I was like, dude, that would have been I mean, I had a organic, awesome, nice, big smile on my face for the first time watching the film, and I thought that was way better than watching it in the trailer.
Yeah, that's one thing I am very jealous of you on, that you got to see that just in its organic state and its natural,
And like
like,
one of those, like, oh fuck, and I'm like, Debbie, my wife, she doesn't know, and I'm like, it's the library ghost, the and then Genevieve as well, my daughter, she knew because she just watched the original one not too long ago, but I was like giddy that they threw the library ghost in there out of nowhere, and I wasn't even thinking the library ghost when they were down there too. I mean, I don't know, it just didn't dawn on me when Patton Oswalt was doing his thing, but yeah. See, that's one example of I'm so glad I didn't see any of the trailers or the interviews. I see like all CBS, Good Morning America, and the cast is there and they're talking about the film, and I was like so tempted to like listen in, but I just waited. So
yeah, I think for this time they kept a lot more out of the trailers though than they did for Afterlife, right? Because the Fire Master didn't show up in the trailers, which I think would have turned people off because you kind of just need to see that play out organically. And I question how well that would have worked had Camille Nanjiani not been cast for that, because he really stole the show in a lot of ways with that character and he made that work. I think that was
yeah,
hard to pull off anyway. And so I'm
funny too.
happy
I like
he did that.
dude.
And yeah, and then Emily Allen Lynn's character, Melody, that was very interesting because none of that made it to the trailer. So that was pretty cool that they had a few things that weren't in there, like going into
What part?
Afterlife. That last trailer they showed Egon driving the truck, and I'm like, what the hell? Like that was
I didn't see that trailer. Wait,
the last trailer they released like a week before Afterlife came out, and Egon was driving that Shandor mining truck like at the beginning of the movie. And so that spoiled that right away in that last trailer.
oh! You're talking about with Afterlife. They gave away
Yep.
more. Okay, sorry, I
Yeah.
misunderstood.
Yeah. So this time I think overall, like they gave a lot away, but they had a couple of really big things that they didn't spoil at all. So I appreciated the fact that there was things I was genuinely surprised with in the film.
Right. I agree.
What were your favorite Easter eggs in the film that you saw?
I didn't see it the first time, but when I was watching, I was watching a lot of the Adam Savage videos when he does a tour of the firehouse set and all that stuff. After, of course, afterwards, and I thought I saw it in the film, like that something was different with the floor, and then I kind of confirmed what it was because I wasn't really sure in the Adam Savage video, but how the floor is basically repaired and it matches the ceiling that's repaired. And that's a throwback to Ghostbusters 1, the original, when the containment unit explodes and the ghost goes shooting through the roof. And Jason Reitman was on there talking to Adam Savage, saying how it's like one of his favorite Easter eggs because they don't call it out or anything, but the repair from the first film, I thought that was really cool. And then, of course, Ghostbusters 2 black mug on the back of the, on the shelf in the kitchen. I thought that was kind of fun to see that.
Yeah. So one of my favorite Easter eggs, it's in the attic scene. They have the sign that Marty made. It's standing upright vertical, but it's up in the attic with all the other stuff. The Ghostbusters,
Yeah.
It's the hand-painted sign that they're mounting. You don't think it's too subtle, Marty. You don't think they're going to drive down and not see the sign.
Okay, I didn't remember the guy's name, Marty. Oh, because I saw that sign and I was trying to read what it said, but it kind of went by fast and I couldn't get it.
Yeah,
so that's fun. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the attic had a lot of extra stuff in there too, like marketing materials from Ghostbusters 2, and I think there's boxes labeled for the mugs. And now in the movie itself, I haven't been able to kind of like verify all those things. Like those are behind the scenes things that we'd seen in like still shots and photos and behind the scenes things. So like when this comes on home video and I can like really focus on things, pause it or rewind or whatever else and kind of check out those things and catch them.
Because I found myself in the theaters like, damn, I wish I could like rewind and go back and look at that because I didn't catch that. Yeah.
Did you catch the Dana Barrett?
No. Where's Dana Barrett at?
Outside the public library. There's a sign in the middle of the step area for an orchestra performance, and Dana Barrett's name is listed in big font.
Yeah,
it's really in the middle of the steps.
Yeah,
like a sign,
outside the public library, like there's a sign like with just an advertisement for it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's one of the big pieces there, and
I can't believe I missed that. No, I didn't see that.
I didn't see that yet, but I've seen the behind the scenes photos and stuff because
was it?
I
when
saw somebody
up there with Ecto C, and he gets out, and then the guy does a cameo from the first film. Is it that scene?
I think you might be able to see it there, or when they're leaving, but it's there. It's like on the steps, so when it's looking towards the building, that's when you see it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, nice. I'll have to check it out.
Did you have any other favorite Easter eggs, Alec? I know you saw that Dana Barrett one before a lot of people did. Like, I think that's kind of one of the big ones going around now, but you caught that early on.
I heard, I think it was J.D. Raymer said something about seeing a Dana Barrett one, but he didn't say what it was. So the second time I saw it, I kind of had that in mind, and I was perusing the background a lot more the second viewing, so I found it.
Nice. Yeah, see, when they said that, I was looking in the research lab and I saw the acoustic guitar, but I saw the cello in the background. And I was like, oh, is that what they're talking about? The Dana Barrett? And then there's also a violin. And I'm like, yeah, that just could be the music section. But there's a lot of fun.
Here's Justin, the Ghostbuster sign, I guess you said.
Yeah, that sign was really cool. A couple other things I liked. I liked that Lars was using the sniffer when they went to Nadim's apartment. Like, that was pretty cool to see that they're still using that and it still has function. Just some of the gadgets kind of thrown in there.
In this test lab, doing the slime blowing.
Yeah, that was cool. And then the slime blower.
One, but I like how they do that in there.
Yeah, and I think you see the full slime blower kind of sitting on the ground in that room that Lucky's in when she kind of approaches Trevor. But I mean, yeah, you see it blasting once in that test room. So there's a lot of fun Easter eggs in this, and obviously Afterlife had a ton of them too, but a lot of them were very in your face. Like, this shit was just in the background here, so it wasn't like, hey, I found a Twinkie or a Crunch Bar. Yeah, this is fun just to look for, that it's not like presented to you.
Right. I mean, and we found the orange machine again. I forgot what they call it. Down in the basement by the containment unit.
Next to the washer and dryer.
Yeah. And then Afterlife, I thought is a little, I mean, I loved it. Don't get me wrong, all the nostalgia, but I think it's a little heavy and a little kind of, like you said, in your face. This one I found was a little harder to find, see, because there are Easter eggs, of course, but obviously not as many, or just harder to find.
Well, I feel like these are more proper Easter eggs, right? It's stuff in the background that a super fan's going to notice. Like with Afterlife, they kind of made it for anyone that was even just a casual Ghostbusters fan. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that from the first one." The member berries. But I think in this one, it's more like you've got to look. You got to find them on your own. Really, it's your own journey there to have fun with.
Right, you're not going to know what that black Ghostbusters 2 mug is in the shelf there with the balloons, unless you're a fan.
Yeah.
Typically.
The only thing I saw in trailers that I didn't want to see in trailers because it kind of upset me is I saw one of the international trailers where they show a brief clip of the Ecto-1 being possessed by the possessor ghost. And I was like, man, I really wish I hadn't seen that in a trailer. I really wish that had been saved for the big screen for me.
I heard that the international trailer, I haven't seen any of those, but I heard they kind of, I guess to your point, gave away a little bit more about the movie. Maybe that's what they were talking about.
Yeah. To cater to an international audience, things are a little different than here.
Sure.
And so I would love to talk to like an editor of trailers just to kind of see like, how do you determine what you do for the American market versus the international market and try to understand more about that process, because it's a lot of films do things like that where they give a lot more away or they kind of spell things out more for the international audience that they don't do for American audiences. So
yeah, that I'm more familiar with the franchise, etc. It might make sense.
So what do you have for us, Alec? What are you thinking?
Alec has gone bye-bye. What have you got left? I don't know. I'm interested to see what else is going to come out. Like as soon as the movie is over, I'm like, all right, I'm ready for the next one. Let's go. I'm good. Let's do it. There's a few cringy moments in the movie.
Yeah, let's talk about those.
I can't recall them though.
Okay.
So they can't be that important.
What
No.
are you talking about? Sorry, maybe I didn't hear you guys.
I said that there's a few cringy moments in this movie for sure, but I can't recall them. So they must not have bothered me that much, but
there's a few pieces of dialogue to me like that they're spelling out for the common person, but they didn't really need to do that. Like in that flashback scene where they're saying, or not the flashback scene, but when Hubert's kind of giving us the history of the death chill, and she's like, "Oh, so like Ghostbusters." Like, I
remember I brought that up before in our review. Yeah, that's the worst. One of the worst offenders, I think, is just like, yes, we get that. I think even kids would get that, but I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty common, right? I think people understand that. Like, how did you feel about like character development in this?
Well, there's a lot of characters, but I think the only character I'm looking at the movie and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like I got enough of them was Lars. I think he was hilarious.
That was my biggest disappointment, is the fact that he got slimed before the action. So he was like down and out and we didn't see him at all.
Right.
I think that's kind of part of his charm, though. Like you saw that he sort of panicked and didn't know how to use the proton. But like he knows how to use it, but like he's never used it like that before. Like in the field, as you'd say.
Yeah, he's inexperienced and he's great with building it, but he's not great at utilizing it.
I think that's a good thing we want to see more of. Is like that. Because it's like genuine. He's genuinely afraid of whatever's happening in there, and a lot of these characters just act like so brave and badass all the time. So it's like I like it when they're genuinely afraid. It's funny, like Trevor and Slimer. That was funny too because he was afraid.
Yeah,
yeah. They're like, "Oh, you're a big kid,"
I was just gonna say, like, some people that I've talked to complain about how many characters there are. Obviously, there's a lot of characters in this movie, but I feel like we flushed out a lot of them, or at least, know a lot of their story arc from Afterlife because it's the same characters for the most part. A couple, like, 3 new characters, Melody, Patton, and then Fire Marshal Bill. And I just, like, I don't know. I know maybe if they wanted to save time and spend more time on character development on maybe one of the new characters, Like, I don't think he needed to do with Oswald because he was just a library guy. Like, he didn't really serve anything besides helping them with the story, like understanding what they had, and he didn't really need to be in anything else. So I was fine with that. But maybe there was no room to bring back Podcast and Lucky. I mean, they were there. They had some comedy, but I don't know. They didn't have to be in the movie, in my opinion. I was fine that they were, but if you
I
wanted to cut
definitely
down
wanted them back just because they were some of my favorite parts of the Afterlife. Because
Yeah.
Afterlife, the thing about this movie is I'm glad the old guys are in it, but you could have left them out of Afterlife entirely, and I'd have been fine. Because
Yeah,
they
me too.
just showed up and kind of just like the movie fucking feels weird for that last 20 minutes for me anyway. I mean, it's good, but
and they don't really explain it, and it's just, but it had been what 30 some years since the last movie, so you had to bring him back, and most people want to go see Afterlife to see the old guys back, you know, and they couldn't send off Egon without the old crew.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
get why they did it. For me,
So
though, what I'm
there's-
thinking is like with the new characters in this movie, they're giving us opportunities to do different things going forward. Right. So we have the
Mhm.
opportunity to carry on the Spangler story, right? Phoebe's story arc, I feel like Phoebe easily deserves another film to kind of be the lead in and kind of finish her story arc, kind of like, you know, going from a young adult to an adult, however that looks like. But we also moved other characters along. So this thing can go international or it can do new things. And you can have a larger universe that doesn't require everyone to be in it. Like Lars could easily do they could easily do their own thing with Lars and the research team, right? And that includes Lucky since she's working in there. And then, if you were to serialize this and make it fit for TV, which I think with the number of characters they have now, it would really lend itself to TV. We'll see what happens. But I feel like you could easily do a show with Ray and Podcast kind of hanging out doing things. And then with Hubert's character, you kind of see
Podcast and Ray getting together for his YouTube show.
Yeah. And though with Hubert, he's kind of set up as like somebody that can kind of be the guide for the Ghostbusters after Ray, maybe isn't around anymore or whatever else. It's kind of just setting up other options. Because, some of these guys are getting pretty old. We don't know, what they've got left in the tank or how long it may take before they get back to these things. So just having some other opportunities there, because when you think about it, in this new canon, Gary is a seismologist. He doesn't know a lot about ghostbusting. Phoebe's a genius, but she doesn't know everything yet, right? She's still learning. And then, the OG Ghostbusters are the ones that really kind of know the lore and stuff. So you've got to expand their circle for them to learn things and kind of branch out a little bit.
All we need is Phoebe and Lars. Between the two of them, it's like having Egon and Ray. So
True. And I loved how Lars is a character that's similar to Egon, but he's like the dick version of Egon, right? Where he's just he's just irritated by people. He's like, you don't fucking know anything. Like, I'm trying to work here. Get out of here. Go away. You don't know anything.
What helps me listen to the ghosts is silence.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot you can do with that character alone. Like, you can go international with him. You can do the R&D show or movie, however you want to go that route. I just feel like the possibilities are limitless. Hey, Dean Yeager, like, where do we go from here? And there's 4 or 5 ways you could go, and you can interlap these characters and you can kind of bring them in and out of things as needed if you want. But I still think there's a genuine way to kind of wrap up the Phoebe and the core Spangler storyline. And then you can keep going with it beyond that if you want. Like, Trevor still hasn't had a lot of screen time, but we've seen a good amount of development with him of becoming an adult and kind of finding his place in the family, where he's 18 now. So he's not like the biggest pain in the ass for the family, but he's still kind of there and like bumbling around into early adulthood.
I've just now realized this, but his like entire plot in Afterlife is basically the older brother's plot in Great Outdoors.
Oh shit.
You need to add that music in there.
Yeah.
With
That's
what was Aykroyd's name? What was this The Great Outdoors?
Fuck, I'm having a brain fart.
Roman.
Roman.
Yeah, Roman
Yeah.
Pierce.
Didn't he have it on
Yeah.
his license plate too or something, Roman?
Yeah, it was on his license plate. Yeah. What'd you think of the Ecto C?
I thought it was cool. I had a smile because I didn't know if that was I don't remember if that was in a I think it was in a trailer, wasn't it? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
And it's in one of the last TV spots.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I had, real Ghostbuster vibes, as soon as I saw it coming out and dicking around. And then I was pleasantly surprised that it had a proton pack in it, or, whenever the possessor ghost.
Did you see the back of the cab there on the Ecto C?
Yeah, the sidecar has the little cyclotron lights that you can see through there, so implying that the pack is underneath it.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't pay that much close attention. I have to see that, like in the backpack, like in the butt of it.
Yeah, go look like on Google or something, pictures of it. It's pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, I'll look it up.
Yeah, and then what'd you think about the Ecto Z, the Mercedes Sprinter van?
I thought that was cool too because that maybe transport equipment between the new containment unit, old aquarium or whatever, and what was it, Queens or wherever? What did they say it was? And yeah, it was slick. And then how and I know you guys saw it in person, which I'm pretty jealous. But the rack comes out with all the gear on there. I thought that was pretty slick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It was
like that.
Men in Black vibes, like the black truck pulls up with all the shit and then like grab your stuff.
People were complaining that it wasn't like, I don't know if these people have seen the movie, to be fair or not, but they're complaining like, oh, it's such an unimaginative vehicle. Well, it's like, if you know the context of it, it's for transporting. It's not for like emergency shit.
Yeah, it's a practical. Like Ghostbusters is all
Yeah.
about practicality. They build everything themselves, and of course, that van is practical to move the shit that they built. That doesn't make any
Makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah, and that's listed as
They would
Zedmore
complain.
Industries Vehicle 003. So, like, I think that makes sense to have that in there. As a fleet van, is something that it's great to see that in there, because if you were going to do a modern Ecto 1 or modern vehicles, like that's probably what they would drive to get there and haul their equipment around in, right? You're not going to drive around in an ancient Cadillac because the maintenance and gas efficiency and like everything about that is like,
Yeah, they would know. They would not be using that Ecto 1 anymore for sure. But whatever, it's fine. We want them to be.
well, yeah, exactly. And they've restored it nicely, and then they've the new touches they put on there in the restoration I liked. The drone trap and the RTV trap. I think those complement each other very well, and like I'm excited to see more of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the drone trap. I didn't know that was a thing until, because I didn't know what that bubble, because I saw the car obviously in the first opening scenes and everything, and with the bubble over it, I was like, I wonder what that's going to be. And then whenever Callie Coon opens it up, I was like, shit. And using the ecto goggles to steer it, I was like, that's funny.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool touch. Like, in the extra equipment they added onto the goggles, to have her kind of help pilot that. Like, I think they're plugged into the control.
Right. It was like an old VGA cable or something from an old computer, looked like plugged into the side. I'm trying to find an image of Ecto C bike.
And then, when you like start looking at it, so the fact that Peck like came and shut down all the proton packs, and so Phoebe like hid the Spangler pack upstairs under her bed, but everything else was taken by Peck when they came in there to shut them down. Like the fact that they had the research lab with all the other equipment, I thought was pretty cool, and like they're all gear up with it, and they're kind of you see Ray kind of nerding out over all the modifications, and I'm like, okay, and it felt like a natural progression for those packs, like a few safety features, like they're a little brighter in colors and stuff like that. I thought all those changes and stuff were pretty cool and pretty well thought out as far as that goes, because you could drastically change them if you wanted, but I feel like this is something that if you're going to make more, it really felt in universe and felt pretty organic for the most part.
I agree. It was a nice way to segue into those packs organically, and it wasn't such a dramatic change. I almost wish they kind of had that black and yellow theme, like from even a pack to the original one. I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of calls
the strap and everything else that they do black and yellow striping.
Yeah, and I think it was classy the way like the bumper was yellow and then you just had a couple of stripes on the side of the pack. Like it wasn't overdone, because to me that's one thing in the fandom, especially like in the fan films and like a lot of the cosplay stuff is just like overdone with the black and yellow stripes, and you're like, whoa, tone it down. But I felt like this is a pretty natural balance there, where I wasn't like, oh my god, what the fuck did you do? I was like, okay, that's cool.
There's a nice little pop to it. I liked it.
Yeah. What did you think about the gear, Alec?
It's fun. No. I was betting that we weren't going to see the slime blowers in actual use. PK didn't get as much use as I would have thought, but it did here and there. It broke. Ray's PK broke. Remember that?
Yeah.
He also used it in his show.
I saw. Yeah, that was fun. The Adam Savage video, and he's talking about the practicality of these effects and the scene with the sparks coming out of the back of Phoebe's pack.
Yeah.
How like that's actual sparks they did, and it's a modified HasLab pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I did love, is that they utilized a number of those HasLab packs and shells just because they're so easy for them to use.
Right.
The one thing I was super jealous of watching the behind the scenes is like they did the full shell castings and the foam, and I'm like, man, I need somebody to make one of those so I can do like a good stunt pack or just a lightweight pack that I can, kind of have. Like I need that.
Packs look way more accurate, obviously, than the '84 stunt packs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, they looked amazing. Like those things were cast.
They look real.
They looked great.
Yeah, and I really like the drone trap. That was one of my favorite new pieces of gear that they added.
Yeah, that
it opens on the bottom and top. That's a cool thing about it.
I was going to ask that, like, because it sucked up the Hell's Kitchen Dragon from the bottom, right?
Yeah, but it had caution stripe that opened up on the bottom and top. It looked like.
Yeah, because I saw from the top you can see the caution stripe. So I was wondering, if you could do it from the top. Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was fun.
So, the advertising on this has been a little bit, I mean, you saw a lot of it after the fact, Jerry, but, every ghost we've ever caught was released. And they kind of show that, tons of ghosts escape and we get to see them leave. And that's why the containment unit's empty and they're able to, like, utilize that as a giant ghost trap to deal with Garak at the end. Because, like,
you just assume it just sealed itself back up, I guess, is the way I took it.
Yeah. So in my first viewing, I didn't feel like everything escaped, but then kind of watching it and like listening to the dialogue a little more closely on the second viewing, I was like, oh, so they are saying everything was out. That was completely empty. So that's where they put Garak. I'm like, okay, I was fine with that. But everyone was like, well, what about Gozer then? And I was like, I think you're overthinking that, because that would have all gone to the research lab and the new containment units.
That
right?
That stuff wouldn't have necessarily been built when they brought it back, though. So either way,
well, and we might find out in the comics that are coming out, really, because isn't the comics that come out tomorrow supposed to bridge the gap between Afterlife and Frozen Empire and how they
Also, I don't think we even need to know what happened to the Gozer traps. Fuck Gozer, I'm over Gozer.
Yeah, I know. So
they're still buried in the field. We're good.
Yeah, fuck it. Sure. There we go. That's fine with me.
The one thing that seemed to me like a cost-saving effort was like when a lot of those ghosts were escaping the containment unit, and we saw them like leaving, like they just looked like very generic. And I'm like, they could have easily thrown in a ton of Easter eggs there of ghosts we've seen them catch. Like the Scoleri brothers could have easily popped out of there. The taxi driver, the jogger ghost, like all that stuff could have come out. But did we need that? Not necessarily, because that gives you the opportunity to revisit that stuff later on, so you choose to do so. In an animated series,
the ghost scene and the explosion was better. Actually, the ghosts swirling around the city in the original '84 than in this one. But I did love the zoom out view of the city all frozen, Manhattan frozen, with the light going from the firehouse. I thought that was a really cool scene. Visually, it looked cool.
Yeah, visually, I think this movie looked great. The blue screen stuff, I think they blended in pretty seamlessly because they had a lot of sets that worked out pretty well. And
well, they were not at the New York Public Library. They shot that all on fucking set. They built lines and built all the steps and everything.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
really? Like they didn't.
Yeah.
The outside scene was not even there. Wow.
no, there is
Okay.
very little shot in New York, actually shot in New York,
Just
which
the car screen, Ecto One doing the U-turn.
yeah, so that was actually in New York,
Chasing.
right? Which is coming down, and you can kind of see that. And there's a few trailer shots in there, and obviously they shot on the beach in Jersey. Well, actually, I don't even know if they shot on the beach in Jersey.
Coney
I think,
Island.
yeah, I think they did some of those
Yeah.
scenes in there, but some of that beach scene, I think, where they're actually on the beach was elsewhere. I think they may have done that in London. I'd love to see like the behind the scenes and the making of this just to kind of figure out where it goes.
Right.
How they did some of those things because I love the making of books and behind the scenes stuff. So we've talked a lot about the movie. So do you guys want to talk some stack rankings here? Like, how do you rank these movies now that we've got 5 Ghostbusters movies? Like, how do you rank them?
Go ahead. Alec, you want to lead
Mine's
off?
going to be the most controversial, so you might want to go first here. Somebody else.
Jerry, you're the guest, so lead the way, buddy.
I mean, pretty straightforward. For me, it's got to be the original 84, then 89, and then Frozen, Empire, and then Afterlife, and then I mean, if you want to count the other one, it's not canon, but sure, that would be the dead last one for me. Answer the call.
Okay.
But I think 84 is obviously way perfect, and I know it. I just don't see anything can top it, which is fine. I don't think anything should, but
well, there's
and
tons of movies like that, like look at Jurassic Park versus Jurassic World, right? There's
yeah,
the lightning in the bottle, the magic, the moment in
But-
time, perfect.
true. But then you look at for me anyway, the Back to the Future trilogy, which is like, okay, I loved all 3 of those movies, and usually you can't say that with multiple sequels. For me, it's hard to pick my favorite from those. But with Ghostbusters, it's the original 84 all the way. And then 89, I love just because I just love how the old G Ghostbusters, and obviously they're in that one for, all of it. And then this one, I thought this one was had more comedy than Afterlife. I loved it. It was back in the firehouse in New York. That was like a big win for me. And just like the story a little bit better. Obviously, they had to send off Egon and whatnot, which I'm still bummed about because he was my favorite Ghostbuster. And then Afterlife after that. So
Okay, Alec, let's hear some controversy here. Let's trigger some people.
yeah,
Number 1. Ghostbusters 1984, obviously.
I would hope so. Maybe.
Number
Unless,
2.
Justin,
Ghostbusters 2, 1989. I don't think that's controversial, but this next part will be.
let me guess. You're gonna say the reboot.
Number 3, Ghostbusters Answer the Call.
No way.
Yeah. Number 4, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Number 5, Ghostbusters Afterlife. And that's not to say the Ghostbusters Afterlife is bad by any means. I love all the Ghostbusters movies.
Right.
But for me, rewatching, like, I have a better time watching Answer the Call. I'm not bummed out and depressed and having an existential crisis.
I don't like Answer the Call, and we don't need to get into it. I'm not going to get into it. I genuinely don't like it because it's a reboot, not because all the controversy is like, oh, it's only females, and they're and all these like bullshit that surrounded that movie. I was just like, I just don't like it because I didn't like a couple of the actors in it, like Leslie Jones. I don't like her at all. I don't like her style, and I hated it as a reboot. I don't consider it it isn't part of the canon. And I don't consider it Ghostbusters. I just think it was a money grab reboot, in my opinion.
I think,
it was a reboot.
know.
Obviously, it's not a controversial thing. It was a straight up reboot.
Yeah, I don't have problems with reboots or remakes, though. That's one of my things. I love reboots and remakes. If we didn't have those, we wouldn't have John Carpenter's The Thing. That being said, I just don't see it like it is a reboot or remake. I just don't compare it to the others. Since it's unrelated, I'm able to just completely disconnect it and enjoy it for what it is. And it is.
I think I was just more upset, or maybe not. Well, some people, just because it had been so long since the last Ghostbusters that we wanted a new Ghostbuster, right? Like a real Ghostbuster, not a reboot, not a reskinning. You know, that's I think where a lot of animosity comes from.
Yeah, but
at
just
least
think
back
about it this
like,
way: if Paul Feig had done Afterlife, essentially, not Afterlife, but it would have been something else entirely, people would have been more upset that that was part of the universe, I think. So we should be happy that it's separated, I think, because that the continuation of the actual universe is better this way, I
yeah,
think.
I agree. I think that, yeah, 100%.
But still, I'm going to rewatch Answer the Call more. To me, it's funnier. Frozen Empire is going to give it a run for its money in terms of comedy, actually. But like Afterlife's vibe is completely different in that sense. I definitely liked Frozen Empire more than Afterlife, and I could tell I was going to in the trailer as long as it didn't, do a
Yeah.
whole bunch of dumb shit. But yeah, that's the ranking.
Justin,
All
what
right.
say you?
Mine's probably going to piss a few people off, but, don't take it to heart because I love all 5 of them for different reasons. So clearly, the number one, Ghostbusters 1984. It's basically that perfect movie, perfectly captured in the time. Like when you write everything about this movie down on paper, it shouldn't fucking work.
Hold
There's
on. You're not proposing, are you? No, you're not you're not going to put Frozen Empire above Ghostbusters 2 here, are you?
Oh shit.
That's
I
what he's
am.
doing, Jerry.
I
Whoa.
am. Frozen
Over 89.
Empire right here. And my number one reason for that is they're fucking in business. I don't have to watch the same fucking plot for plot reboot of Ghostbusters 2, which is like, hey, we got to spend the first part of the movie restarting the business. Hey, we catch a ghost and then we get a montage. Like, this is something that broke the mold for what we've had for a Ghostbusters movie, kind of did some different stuff. And so for me, the rewatchability here is fun. And now this could change in 6 months to a year after the fact, but I just feel like the rewatchability for me for Frozen Empire is very high. After Ghostbusters, yeah. And then number 3, Ghostbusters 2. Right? There's things I love about that movie. Obviously, I have huge nostalgia ties to it, seeing the posters in theaters, seeing it in theaters, all the merchandise, all the tie-ins, everything going on with the real Ghostbusters at the time.
Let's be honest. Vigo's better than Garaka, though.
Yeah.
Not that Garaka's shit or anything, because Garaka's pretty cool for what it is, but Vigo's cooler.
Yeah. I mean, Vigo's a magician, and it's that human thing.
Vigo. Come on.
I will say that, yeah, Vigo is the better villain because it's a human villain, as Garaka is another god or whatever else they're trying to say it is. Okay, so that's fine.
That's two Ghostbusters movies have ghosts as the main villain.
Yep. So, okay, so Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, Ghostbusters 2, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and then Answer the Call. And a lot of people are going to be pissed, but I like Answer the Call a lot, especially the extended edition. There's a lot of things in that movie that I really, really enjoyed. For me, the things in that movie that I would cut out everyone's fucking cameo from the regular universe. I don't need any of them. Those cameos are just fucking
Ray's.
dumb.
I like Ray's.
Yeah,
Ray's is the funniest. Like, Venkman is kind of phoning it in, and like, they felt like they guilted him and shamed Bill Murray into doing it. He's like,
Bill Murray. Bill Murray's is the worst for sure. He doesn't need to be there. I don't like that one, but
yeah, like Winston's okay. That's not
It's
Winston,
fine.
obviously, but it's interesting. And then Afterlife for me, I really enjoy aspects of it, but it's also, I think, the longest one aside from the extended cut of Answer the Call. There's things in there that, yeah, it's an existential crisis. It's fucking depressing because, like, you're dealing with Egon dying, like, you're dealing with a fucking family that's dealing with, like, insane poverty. They got to go live in a fucking shithole. And there's things about that still, like, frustrate me from a storytelling standpoint. And the number one being that you can't tell me that Egon, one of the smartest fucking people in this universe, was not able to articulate to Ray and say, "Hey, Ray, you know that building where Gozer tried to come through? Well, here's where they were mining all the ore for that."
Right.
And
That's the
and like Ray wouldn't believe that, like, well, he's going on about the end of the world, and I'm like, I don't feel like Egon would have been hysterical like they implied he was. I feel
Right.
like he would have had a very calm, casual thing to me, and so to me, like the way the story plays out makes sense. That was a hard story to tell, but it's also the rewatchability is
It's low.
good, but it's lower just because like I got to be in a certain mood to feel sad about watching fucking Egon die, and like you got to be in the moment to kind of really
Right.
accept that movie and kind of really watch it and get through it. Now that said, though, I love the new characters in that movie. Like Alex said earlier, like if you cut out the cameos of the OG characters at the end and they just busted that ghost on their own, because really when you think about it, they didn't do anything. You know who did everything? That was Trevor when he was finally able to get the pack going because podcast figured out in the Ecto. Right? When they were able to shoot that and power up the traps, like that's what saved the day. It wasn't any of the OG guys. They were there just to almost die.
Well, a whole lot goes
So
by time, but
yeah. And then the fact that the OG Ghostbusters were so dumb in that they were going to cross the stream when there's not a portal to send Gozer back through. Even
yeah.
though we know Egon knew to cross the streams to close the portal into mine. There's things in there that like really
Right, like
stick
if
out.
I know that, they know that. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, there's no portal to close.
Yeah.
The door, there's no door behind you to swing the other way. Like you can't have
Right.
total protonic reversal if there's nothing to change.
And
So
my biggest gripe, to your point earlier, Justin, my biggest gripe is that they just the Ray just wrote Egon off as like he's a loony bin now, and he went off to Oklahoma. He's a dirt farmer. It's like, what are you talking about? You guys made the Statue of Liberty move down, Fifth Avenue or whatever it was, and rivers of slime and a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. How can you not believe what Egon was telling you about Gozer? And it just made complete sense. And then just to write that off, and I felt like they could have, I don't know. What I wanted was like Egon went out in a blaze of glory in some kind of fight with some monster with the Ghostbusters, and he sacrificed himself to save the crew or something like that. I thought that's where they're going to go with it, and obviously they didn't.
yeah, and they could have easily done that, like saying he died in the
Just I
past.
didn't like how they made him look like he was a crazy person, and obviously at the end they realized they were wrong. It's like, fuck, how did you guys not know that he was right? I mean, smartest guy in the world. Plus, you guys have battled crazy shit ghost wise. How is this too far fetched for you not to believe it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's things in there, and
It's like, what the fuck? Come
I
look at the
feel like
fucking I found.
I feel like a fan consultant could have helped just tweak that script a little bit to make it make a little more sense. Now, that said, I still love the movie, right? But I just feel like there's certain things that
Fan consultant.
not, but you know what I mean? Someone that's just like an expert on the lore doesn't necessarily have to be a fan, like in the way that like you just go get a random person off the internet. But I mean, someone that's like when you follow a style guide for doing promotion and marketing, like, you need to make sure it's on brand. This makes sense in the universe. I just feel like it could have used a few of those things that it didn't seem like they did. But I still love the movie.
Ivan was around for Afterlife, so I feel like he could have, like Jason said, he was all the time telling him different shit to correct and what to do. So I feel like if he had a real issue, he'd have been like, listen, dumbass. So whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like it's fine. Especially, I mean, Ray was on, like Dan Aykroyd, I'm sure would not be shy to tell Jason Reitman, we need to tweak this here. This is not a character.
That's true. That's true. But I will always go back to this. I am so thankful they did not make Ghostbusters 3 in the 90s because that would have been a CGI.
What, you don't want Ben
of-
Stiller, Chris Rock, and Chris Farley as Ghostbusters?
Chris Farley I'd have been fine with, especially if it was his ghost.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. It would have been maybe more of a money grab then, and to put it on ice as long as they did to really do it right later. I guess it's worth the wait. And now look at us, like where the franchise is, like
we're in a good
as
spot.
Good as it's ever been since obviously we were kids in the '80s with the cartoon, and then the sequel coming out after the cartoon, and
yeah,
it's like right in that sweet spot.
Well, either way, if you're listening to this, jump in the comments and let us know how you rank the movies. Like, If you want to give details on it, go for it. But I just think that we've all ranked them differently, and I think for very valid reasons, just for different purposes. But I mean, to me, watching Frozen Empire, one of my favorite things is the fact that like we just start this movie. There's just so many new things in it, right? We get a flashback, which we've never seen before, which I thought was cool. I enjoyed that. And then we immediately go into a ghost chase. Like they're in business, they're actually on the job.
Yeah, getting right to it. I agree with that. Yeah, that was great. They just went right into it. And I
Yep.
thought it was cool, like the flashback coming out of the firehouse with the old, a horse-drawn carriage and everything. I thought that was a fun way to open the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you haven't seen the Adam Savage behind the scenes sets of that where they show like where they're making the frozen people fall apart, like holy shit, like that is a lot of practical effects in there that they did that look amazing. So
Yeah.
check that out if you haven't.
No, and that's what I love about Ghostbusters, that they stick to the practical effects, as much as they can. I appreciate that because they could easily just CGI the shit out of it and just
Yeah, Slimer looked great in this movie.
Yeah.
He had an ass on him too, big old butt.
He looked how he was supposed to look. Like it literally at some points I was like, this looks like a frame out of Ghostbusters of Slimer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, even the library ghost, I think they used like it looks like they cleaned up some like old footage of her before she transformed.
They just built a new library ghost, I know. I saw.
Oh,
But
for the transformed ghost, yeah, but I mean like as the librarian herself. I don't know if
Floating
they
there,
used
the initial shot.
yeah, the librarian in human form. Which is pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
I thought that looked just like it could have been like an old scene. Yeah.
Yeah, and they may very well have. Like that's why I want to know more on the behind the scenes stuff. But just the fact they put so much care and love into the set, like seeing all that stuff in the firehouse that we've never seen before. Like it's a living space.
Yeah.
There's like weird family dynamics in there.
More
Like
of a firehouse, like that you don't see the kitchen and another level, the attic, of course. I thought that was awesome. Like they really made it feel like they're been living in there and busting ghosts and
in Slimer's hand when he was eating those Cheetos, man, like that just was like perfection of the blend of the practical effect with like the CGI on there. Like when he's going to reach those Cheetos, I was like, man, that just feels like perfect. It just felt like straight out of 84, like something you would have seen Slimer doing back then. Like the hot dog scene, like it just gives you those vibes of like, oh yeah, this is just insane.
Yeah. He was more translucent in the first one.
A little bit, but I think that's just how they had to overlay the effect shots. I mean, I think that was it. With this, I think they had a good balance of, doing the green screen shooting of there and, kind of blending that in with the actual environment that, Trevor was in. So,
Mm-hmm.
And then I liked at the end where Slimer goes flying out of the house, like following the sewer dragon.
Yeah. And like what Trevor reminds me of Peter, like he's gonna be maybe in like the real Ghostbusters, like in a friend enemies with Slimer always because he's like, I know that guy, and then he gets slimed by him, and he might have that ongoing relationship with Slimer. Is my point going forward, like Peter did in the cartoon.
Yeah, and the fact that they didn't trap him, but he's like trying to, and there's other things going on. And I do like how Slimer got spooked by the, it's implied that Garaka spooked him or whatever was going on, spooked him and like made him leave the second time. So kind of a fun little thread in there. Like he was more menacing and true to the original than he was in Ghostbusters 2. Right. And Ghostbusters 2 Slimer is fun. But going back to that kind of.
Did Pukey hitch a ride in the Mercedes? How did he get over there?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I don't know. Probably.
Who?
Pukey, the little ghost that throws up on the glass and then slimes Lars.
The name of him. Yeah, how did I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, I assume he had to have came over with the proton packs with Lars in the van.
Yeah.
And then the Possessor Ghost I thought was a really fun addition. Just overall,
like the new ghost in general, yeah.
Like we have a ghost that you don't see like in its ghost form at all. It's just possessing stuff, which is pretty cool, and it's dangerous. And then the fact that Slimer ate it, like did Slimer eat it and then he disappeared, or is like the possessor ghost still like out in the world?
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. That's true. And then the creepy ghost that was in the containment, like in the glass, but like with the small little beady eyes and like creepy big dude. I don't know what they're calling him, but
Bones,
They have
I
a-
think maybe.
Yeah, they have a name for it because that was the pack-in ghost with one of the toys.
Yeah,
Oh,
all
okay.
the pack-in toys from those. Like the Callie came with this possessor when he's in the trash bag mode. So
Yeah. Yeah, so this is that. I think it's supposed to be that kind of skeleton-looking ghost there, and I think this came
Nice.
with Phoebe, I believe.
Phoebe.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
one?
but
I bought my friend's kid. He's big into Ghostbusters. The Gruberson one. It had a yellow ghost, but I don't know
that's
which.
Pukey.
Yuki. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
I bought it before the film came out, so I didn't know the
The
correlation.
the other things that I think they did really well is they threw in like some vintage sounds. Like Slimer had like Ghostbusters 1 sounds,
Yeah,
which
when
they're
he's
able
like
to
reading. Yeah, I love that.
reuse, but they also had some new sounds as well. So like they kind of had a good mix there. How did you feel about the score, Jerry?
I need to go back and listen to. I know it's on YouTube Music now. I was trying to listen to the other day. I don't know. I don't really. I need to go back and pay attention to it. I don't. I remember enjoying it. I know there were some elements from the original score, but I don't know. I need to hear it again to give you a real opinion, I guess.
I think my biggest downside to this score is they pulled some cues from GB1 again, obviously Elmer Bernstein's original score, but for this being a sequel, they really should have done some Randy Edelman score in there. There's some things that would have really worked, and I would have loved to have seen like a modern take on a few of the things in there from that score. And I hope they do that if they do more. I hope they give Randy Edelman some love because there's room to have both of those influences in a score.
Right. No, I agree. I wanted to. I hope it comes out on vinyl. I was trying to look for the Afterlife vinyl, but I don't know. The only one I found, they only made like 250 or something of them, and it's not even all the songs from the movie.
It's strictly the score. Yeah, there's no.
Well, not soundtrack, but not all the music from the score. I meant. They only made one vinyl, and they should have made it like 2 to fit it all in. I don't know. I was reading this. It was like $65-$80 or something. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, unless you got in on the original pre-order for that, they did a very small run of those. Which,
right? Did you guys get?
I've got one, yeah. So
okay,
but I collect vinyl,
like the cartoon.
Yep.
And they're grabbing Muncher. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I've got all. Well, the only I don't have the Answer the Call score on vinyl. But there's things in that score that I really like too, though. So I mean, like when I look at all these scores, like I'm like, man, there's a lot of really good music in these. So, Alec, what are your thoughts on the score?
Frozen Empire is the weakest Ghostbusters score.
I could probably see that.
Yeah, it just is very ununique because it's like it's doing what Afterlife did, but not as good, And it's like we wanted some of that, but with Ghostbusters 2, if anything. Take some of those scores. Take the Venkman strut and some of the Shadow of Liberty or whatever and stuff. Put some of that stuff in there. The fact that there's no pop music in it whatsoever. Ghostbusters theme song drops at the end, but like I don't know if it's a budget issue or what, but like I definitely missed that. And the score itself isn't bad. There's a couple of moments I really like. I like the opening stuff, including throughout the sewer dragon chase. All the music there is great. But like there's not enough synthesizers or anything.
The beach scene, or was that just in a teaser trailer?
Yeah, just the trailer.
Yeah, Cruel Summer was only in that first trailer, and so to me, it's hard to do Ghostbusters without at least a few pop culture references. Like, I mean, they had the CD player that the Possessor Ghost was on, so I felt like that was an opportunity to have something, maybe.
Well, he said it's possessed by an old Spin Doctors CD.
Yeah, so play me some Spin Doctors, right? That would be awesome. Something silly like that. Like, you don't have to have a lot of those, but I imagine for budgeting purposes, right? Music royalties can be very expensive, especially licensing them for a movie, because you license for theatrical release, and then you also have to license for the home video release and for the streaming release. So it can be very convoluted and expensive, but
True.
I do miss those things in a movie.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think that's maybe the reason why I didn't remember it as much is because it just didn't really hit me.
Yeah, and I think for me,
I
like
prefer something dramatic.
the
given
beginning stuff was great because it was fresh. It was kind of another alternate take on some of the Elmer Bernstein score from the original, but it felt fresh. And then even like back in the flashback scene, I felt like that it did a good job of making that feel old, like older than the original score, I think. And then you get to the
Well-
sewer dragon chase, and it's a really good transition to there.
There's good visual gags too in there. Like the hand on the crank that's just going by itself, broken off of the guy's body. That made me laugh out loud when I saw it.
Yeah.
I like that shit. Overall, this one is definitely way funnier than Afterlife.
Yep.
I was still laughing when I went and saw it for the second time by myself, and I just got myself a red one, cherry one, ecto, whatever, icy,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
and then went and sat there and watched this. And there's a couple of the people laughing in the theater. It wasn't a packed theater. It's an afternoon showing, like 2 or 3 o'clock that I went. But Paul Rudd is hilarious in this.
Yeah.
course.
I thought he did really good.
Paul Rudd, Kamal's hilarious.
City Paul Rudd.
Podcast is funny, man. Like he's got some really good lines in there too.
His stuff is less funny to me than Paul Rudd and Kamal's, and even Bill Murray's stuff is great when he's throwing the pen and he's observing during that whole scene.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, like, on the first viewing, I didn't notice that, like, they were all noticing the fire moving in the background.
I didn't either. I didn't
then,
understand
like,
the correlation at the time, obviously. Or
And then
even
I'm-
in the scene with the when he comes out of the the hot dog stand behind him.
the flame float goes up. Yeah. Yeah. And, like,
Because
you see, like, his emotional state is, like, affecting that, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of subtlety in this movie that, like, you don't get on the first viewing, which I love the replay value for that reason, because there's things like, oh, I didn't catch that. Oh, I didn't catch that. And so it's like,
All right. Also, some of the expressions on Ray's face in this movie are just perfect. For example, when kids, he says, "Aren't you benched?" and they say, "Aren't you retired?" And the smile he gives before the garage opens with the Ecto C is it's iconic. It's perfect.
Right. And I just love the nostalgia look on his face when he sees Ecto 1 driving by his shop, and he just kind of like sits there and kind of has a slight, smile. And then and then whenever podcast smashes that Harold's watch, that lady Harold does, and what did he say? He was dead anyway. He's gone anyway.
Yeah.
I forgot the line. He's like, next. And then I was like, that's funny.
Sorry,
He's all
lady, it gets
sympathetic.
views.
Next person, let's go. Yeah.
Well, and see, when stuff is like their relationship is so good, you could easily do, and that's why I would love to see this as a TV series, to be honest with you, is because you could have like the nonsense that those two are doing between like leading up to a big bad villain over a season, right? Because those two have a very good dynamic of like, hey, hit like and subscribe and all that kind of shit that podcasts feeding Ray to kind of help them, I thought that was pretty good. And then the weirdos that you would get in there, like for the tarot card readings and the live music performances, like who the hell's coming in there? Like that's the stuff that like you're excited about. And I guess, a movie's done right when you immediately want more. You're like, I feel like I didn't get enough. Like we saw the resolution, but I'd feel like I didn't get enough because I just love the franchise. And for me, I'm like, okay.
And then I didn't get enough of Garaka. Like I was, obviously if he got all the control of all those ghosts, then it was game over. So I understand that part, but I just felt like we didn't see enough of him like tearing shit up and like doing his thing. But then I think back at the original two movies, I'm like, well, Vigo didn't really do much either. He finally comes out of the painting at the end, and then he gets back, and then Gozer, she was there for a hot second before evaporating, going into
Yeah.
wherever. So I'm like, I guess I can't really complain too much, but yeah, I wanted more, obviously. And like you said earlier, Alec, like, okay, when's the next one? Let's go. I'm ready.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's why I'm excited for the comics to come out this week. I called my local place here in Lee Summit to order them, as well as the X-Men 97 comics that are coming out tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah, I've got mine pre-ordered through Elite Comics over in Overland Park.
Okay.
So I have seen the art, man. The art scares me a little bit on this series for a 4-issue miniseries. And then the fact that this is supposed to fill the gap, but it's a 4-issue miniseries, but we've got a 3-year gap. Because Trevor's 15 in Afterlife and he's 18 for Frozen Empire. So, like, obviously, a 4-issue miniseries isn't going to cover 3 years.
Right.
So, I'm assuming this is just kind of them getting back to New York and doing their first bust in New York and kind of leaving things open to see if the series does well or if the sales are good enough to continue on, or how they want to go this route, because this is considered in canon, in universe, and everything like that. So makes me wonder, like, where the Netflix series is going to go. Is the Netflix series going to be like adjacent and use some of these same characters in the way the real Ghostbusters did, and maybe reference some of the things, or not? Like, does it really matter? Not necessarily, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I am too. I agree. That won't be until 25, right?
Yeah, I don't think they've announced an official date on that. I'm hoping we'll get more information around Ghostbusters Day for the 40th, right? I think that'd be a good announcement, because I can't imagine that we won't have the home video release of this by Ghostbusters Day, right? If you're looking at about a 90-day turnaround, that's pretty close to where it would be.
And aren't they doing, am I wrong? Aren't they doing something else besides the Netflix? Is there another?
They haven't really said. So, like, they said the Netflix series, and they had an animated movie in development at one point in time. I'm not sure the status of that.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of, that there was rumors, or they're thinking about doing an animated film.
Yeah, because when they announced Firehouse, they announced that at Ectofest, but they also announced the Dark Horse comics and a couple other things. And so it's kind of convoluted in the fact that we just don't know yet of whether or not, is it going to be, did the Netflix animated series evolve from the animated movie they're working on?
They announced both then. So
yeah,
2 years ago, this June is when they announced the comic series, Firehouse, an animated movie, and a Netflix series. So we'll just have to see. We have not heard anything about that last one. That's the only thing we haven't heard of.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, because for me, I was always hoping that a Netflix series would kind of be live action, but obviously only time's going to tell with where that goes. But I think with the characters in universe they have, like, it sets itself up to be very TV friendly, just as far as being episodic, because even if you look at Frozen Empire, you could have easily made that a 4-hour miniseries and really made it work very well. But obviously, like, we're still very movie oriented at this point, so we'll kind of see what happens. And I think,
and I don't know if like Aykroyd and them would have participated. Well, maybe Aykroyd and Ernie would have, but
I think they all would have, and Bill probably would have done a couple of cameos, because there probably would have been about the same amount of shooting time for him. But I just wonder, like, how Sony feels about that after kind of seeing Marvel struggle. But Marvel's also oversaturated themselves so much, in every way, shape, and form that you can right now. So, like, they haven't given anyone any breathing room. But because I think you can go back and forth between, like, TV series and movies if you wanted to, right? I don't think there's any reason they couldn't do that. So
I think might have to switch to my phone here for a second. My computer, I think, might be dying.
All right. Well, I think we could probably just wrap this up, man. We've been going at it for a while. Really appreciate you joining and kind of throwing your 2 cents in. Any final thoughts for us?
Hold on. Let me. And
Echo.
All right, I'll turn that off.
Uh-oh. Jerry's gone bye-bye. What have you got left, Alec?
Can you hear me? Sorry, guys. Don't hang up.
We're not hanging up on you.
This is an amazing ending.
Jerry
Sorry,
left the chat.
On my laptop, the button to hang up wasn't working, so I finally got it to exit out. So sorry, guys. Yeah, ran out of juice there.
No, you're good. I think I think that's a natural point just to kind of wind it up. So any final thoughts on your end?
I loved it. I'm going to see it 100 more times. Maybe not 100, but it's definitely one of those where as soon as it comes out digitally, I'll be watching a lot of it. I haven't even watched Afterlife since it came out digitally, to be honest. I watched it like 4 times in the theater and just haven't been in the mood to rewatch that, like to your point earlier. So, but this is the complete opposite. I love the comedy on it. I'm excited to go back and start pausing and look for all the Easter eggs that I missed. The Dana Barrett one for sure. And yeah, I loved it. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a Ghostbusters fan. 40 years in, who would have
100%.
thought we are where we are, right?
Never
We're
thought
lucky.
it. Never thought. Yeah, we deserve this. It's our time now.
Yeah, like I spent the whole 90s and first decade of the 2000s daydreaming of this stuff.
Oh,
So-
fuck yeah. I remember on my computer just like constantly Googling. There was no Google back then, but AOL search or whatever the hell it was of, will Bill Murray do Ghostbusters 3? And,
Mhm.
all those rumors back in the day and constantly looking at stuff. But, and now look what we're at. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, Bill Murray seemed like he was having fun in this movie, and I think that's
I
kind of
think-
my
yeah,
final
he's-
thought. He looked like he
finally
had a
got
good
over
time.
that. Yeah, I think he's like personally. I think he's gone over that hump. He made peace with Harold, and then he had some comment or something on the Afterlife that like, well, the franchise put my kids through college, something like that, and then when he went into Afterlife, I feel like he kind of got bit by that nostalgia bug and like really enjoys being with Annie Potts and everybody else. So I think he'll do another movie, and he won't lead it, but he'll have good 10-15 minutes worth of scenes. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and he doesn't need to. I think that also takes away from the pressure. There's other funny people in there that there's no obligation for him to carry this anymore. Like before, I think in the 90s, he would have had to carry the movie pretty heavy, like he did with the original too. So I think he knows that that's not a requirement anymore. So he can just kind of go there and have fun for a few days when he shoots.
Right. Exactly. He'll give a week's worth of his time and be done. So no, I'm excited. So I love the movie. I'm going to see it over and over again. So
all right, Alec, what do you got left for us?
This is it. This is all I've got left. If you like what you see here, please remember to like and subscribe.
Your mother!